Welcome to What Brought You Here Today, an interview-style mental health podcast that focuses on real experiences and how we navigate and move through them. The guests on this show provide personal and professional insight at times and come from all walks of life. Not all of the guests work in the mental health field, and they've all chosen to be brave and vulnerable while sharing parts of their story with you. Please keep your own mental health and being in mind while listening. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to What Brought You Here Today. I am your host, Ryan, and today I am joined by Amber, the owner of Happiness Therapy here in Minnesota. Hi, Amber. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's my pleasure. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
I've been in the Twin Cities Metro as a practicing therapist now for about 13 years. Made the big leap into private practice just over a year ago. So that's been exciting to step down from the big clinic that I was at for a long time. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I specialize in perinatal work and seeing couples and lots of trauma stuff.
Hey, that's some heavy topics.
Yes, absolutely. They can be pretty big.
Yeah. Has your focus changed throughout your 13 years?
It's always been pretty trauma focused. I would say that's where I got my therapist lens from. I have a background of being on a formal DBT team for a long time. So lots of intense trauma, lots of relational trauma. I think about the big T trauma, which is like the stuff we all think about with trauma, like in disasters or assaults or things of those nature. But I really did find myself going into more relationally based trauma work over the years, but definitely got my start doing that.
Okay. I would love your thoughts on DBT coming out of a intense DBT program or formal DBT program.
Yeah, I think DBT is really great. I've always thought that it's a piece where people have to be like, quote, sick enough to be in the program, which is such a bummer because
Yeah.
DBT skills are really life skills, in my opinion. But I loved doing the work. I just happened to transition more into doing the perinatal piece, but using some of that DBT stuff.
Okay. Okay. How long have you been doing the perinatal work for?
Oh, goodness. It's probably been a little over 8 years at this point. I've
Okay.
really been focusing on perinatal.
Yeah. I've had a few guests on here who also specialize in perinatal. I think they're like really, that is their like sole niche and focus.
Yeah.
And it's been really interesting to have those conversations. I think our community, especially for childbearing people and those who give birth, has been really supportive, and there's been almost like this like opening of the door that we can talk about these things now and
Hmm.
talk about birth trauma and infertility and difficulties with even like parenting and all of the things that I think weren't maybe talked about in previous years or generations, right? You just put on your pants and you get
Go
to it.
for it. Yep. Yeah. Oh, I've absolutely noticed that too. I think the community here in the Twin Cities has been really growing a lot. I know like the organization that I have been affiliated with is PPSM, so Postpartum Support International's Minnesota chapter. So there's lots of growing resources around here too, which is so phenomenal. And it's all stuff that I wish I could have had access to with the
Yeah.
birth of my first child.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And I've shared a lot of that journey on here and on social media in general of having a traumatic birth myself and being really fortunate to have more resources than I think previously would have been, especially having a child in the peak of COVID in August 2020. But
Yeah. And such a big topic that you touched on
yeah,
right there is the idea of birth trauma. And I will say, I get so many ladies who will come to me and say, I don't even know why I can't just dig into this parenting thing. Why is this so hard for me?
yeah,
And oftentimes they don't label their birth as traumatic because nobody was hurt or ill or nothing really bad necessarily happened. But
yeah,
as simple as it just didn't go how I thought it would. And so I have been really fortunate to be able to work with a lot of women and men too, because I don't want to forget the partners. They can
Yeah.
certainly be in on that, but just helping relabel it as it was traumatic for them, even if
Mhm.
nothing bad happened.
Yeah. Then I met with my own personal therapist yesterday, and we were talking about this exact topic because I'm having like some of my own flare ups happen. And she's like,
Yeah.
"Why do you keep minimizing it?" And I was like, "Because I feel like it just is what it is. It happened. It's my experience." I think also as a therapist and in the helping profession, I don't want my story to scare other people.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so
absolutely.
we were talking about it in the context of I was sharing my story with some girlfriends who don't have kids. And I was like, but don't let my story, like the 0.01% of what happened, change your thoughts or feelings on this big life journey.
Yeah, and trauma is so subjective. Like I constantly have this topic come up in my sessions, and I really tell people that they're allowed to have their own experience. They're allowed to interpret it the same way. Like somebody could label their birth as traumatic, and the same person, like another person, might have the exact same birth and have a totally different experience
Yeah.
from it. And neither one is wrong. And I think that's a really important piece when it comes to perinatal trauma specifically.
Yeah. Let's go back a minute when you're talking about their relational trauma and maybe the attachment lens or what's happening when when the baby's born and we like struggle to enter parenting.
Mm. Yeah, I that's a tough one because I will say personally, just as an anecdote as a therapist, if I have a mom come in and she had a traumatic birth, maybe hasn't labeled as that, or maybe did, I don't know, whatever way that goes, but she tends to come in anywhere from like around 9 months to a year after the birth has happened.
Oh,
And I hear a lot of, I just didn't think it would be this hard. I don't know what's happening. And so to me as a therapist, that makes a lot of sense because around that 9 to 12 months, like baby is able to usually like, sit on the floor and maybe entertain with some blocks or a toy or something for a couple of minutes. And it's a little bit more of a groove. You're in some kind of structure with the baby by then. And that tends to give the mom some time to think, gosh,
mhm.
I don't know what's happening. Why am I not enjoying this? Why is this so hard? So I just tend to see a lot of it later.
Yeah. Well, can we normalize the why am I not enjoying this?
Ooh, yes, that would be great. I always I've referred to like my two kids when they were newborns as like since I have a pilot husband, we always called them luggage because that's essentially what they are. Like
Yeah.
you have to haul it around. Like it's not necessarily a lot of fun. There's no interaction. It's there because you need to have it with you. And babies, like they poop, they pee, they scream, like they're not letting you sleep. So yeah, it's not an easy job. And I think that just that compounding factor with trauma makes it so much more difficult to be able to tolerate some of those things as you're getting to know your baby.
Mhm. Yeah. Luggage. What a great term.
Yeah. Luggage, sack and potatoes, you name
Yeah.
it. Like they don't have much going on until you get that first little smile.
Yeah. We've often
Yeah.
referred to our daughter. She's an accessory of our life. Like she's just joined our life. We haven't changed much for her. We've kept going the way we were before. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think normalizing that not everybody falls in love with it every time.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, I can say that was my experience personally with my son almost 8 years ago this August.
Oh my gosh, what day?
August 26th is his
Okay.
birthday.
I'm the
So,
ninth and my daughter's the 18th. I
oh, so fun. Yeah.
love August.
Yeah. And I just know that it wasn't my experience to bond with him right away. Similar with my thoughts to where I hear a lot of women come in and talk about their birth stories is I knew I really loved this child and I knew I didn't want anything bad to happen to them, but I just didn't feel connected. And with that, I hear that it's so common, because it is hard to want to bond with luggage or a sack of potatoes. Like, I wouldn't do that with those inanimate objects, and if that's essentially what babies are,
Yeah.
that's hard to do right away. So I do talk a lot about that in my sessions as well. Just it's okay to not feel connected. It's that dialectic of I love this child and I don't know you, so I'm not even sure if I like you yet. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. How do you help them get over that bump? Or what are some steps that you suggest people take when those feelings are happening?
First, I help them to step back and take a look at what they've seen as far as experiences. Most often, it's like we have a friend or a family member that's, oh, it was such immediate joy. I couldn't let them go. And so that first step is really taking some space away from that comparison because somebody else's experience is not your own. And I really think about that phrase that comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Even if there is that ability to bond with this little tiny infant that maybe flashes a smile, maybe you have a second of feeling that joy, but it can be so taken away if we're comparing it to, I didn't feel this way when they were born.
Y- Yeah, I think that's a great tip and suggestion of stop or reduce the comparing.
Yeah,
Everyone's experience is individual and different. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
How do you help families, parents stay present, connected, intentional, maybe?
Oh, that's a big question. Yeah, I I get that a lot. And I will say I tend to do a lot of that relational work, one-sided relational work. It's hard to sometimes get the other half of the couple in if they're partnered. Um, but really, it's about not comparing again, not comparing your experience to maybe like your best friend and their spouse, right? Maybe they look like the grass is so green over there and they're functioning so well, and we don't actually know. And so taking a step back from that comparison, I think can help. So you can go, okay, here's my relationship. Here's what I want to improve on. Here's what's going well. I think that's a big one because
Mhm.
our brains just they're hardwired for safety, right? And that part of that safety is that black or white thought that we can get into with it's all bad or all good. And so stepping back and identifying even some smaller things that are going well within the partnership and being open to having a conversation about what are your needs in the relationship because it's such a developmental shift becoming a parent.
Yeah. What are some easy ways for parents to just stay more present, like putting the phone away, getting on the floor and playing or whatever? I have historically worked with children and adolescents, and I actually don't enjoy playing. Even with
Yeah.
my own child, I just don't enjoy it. It's getting easier and more fun as she gets older and her imagination and creativity can
Yeah.
drive it. I'm just not wired that way to play babies or play doctor. My husband is great at it,
Yeah.
me not so much. But so, how do we have learned other ways over the past 4 years? Her and I do a lot more things outside and walking and reading and things like that. So, we've found our groove there. But how do parents navigate that when they just like, I don't know how to be more present and I don't like some of these things?
Yeah. The first thing that I think of is and this is really for kids like in that 2 to 16 age range. It's not a bad idea to start practicing with baby is to make the choice to just set aside 10 minutes where there's no phone, no TV, no electronics, like nothing's in the way and make the active choice to just be on the floor. That
Yeah.
acceptance of this might be a little boring and I'm going to sit here because I know that this is strengthening my relationship with my child. And what's surprising is, yeah, and I'll say too, I'm not a get on the floor and play person either. It's just not my jam. My husband's great at it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find myself enjoying that.
Yeah.
And it's more about being fully there and have made the choice to not pick up my phone, to not have the TV playing in the background. My kids might teach me something, obviously scaled more with my almost 8-year old now than the 2-year old that I have, but making that active choice, I think, and just committing. And if 10 minutes sounds too long, start with 2 minutes. Like really allow yourself permission to scale up because it is a skill we have to build. Because I think about DBT skills with the interpersonal effectiveness piece. I think of the give skill. And DBT is all about acronyms. If nobody knew that. So just I'll focus on this one piece, but on that give skill, which is that relationship building skill, the I is act interested. We don't have to be interested in our what our kids are doing. We don't have to be interested in what our spouses are doing. We have to act interested because that's what's going to show them that we're there and that we're doing it on purpose.
Can you go through the whole GIVE acronym really quick for the
Oh,
listeners who don't know?
yeah. So that give acronym is the G is be gentle, right? So I really think that the big thing is when I think about the definition of gentle, it's restraining great power, right? So I have the power to maybe tear into my husband or my kid or whatever. And I'm holding that back because I care more about the relationship than I do about being right or having self-righteous anger or any of those pieces. So that's that G that I act interested. It is probably, I would say, one of the best things that we can do to build like the foundation of a relationship. Because a lot of people, a lot of the times will find themselves caring and really legitimately being interested in
Mhm.
something, or like just even a snippet. So I can say, my husband likes talking finances and history, and they're not my jam. And every twice in a while, I latch onto something. I'm like, oh, and get really interested. So I think it's
Mm.
such a good relational skill. That V is validation. So validating the valid, kind of explaining like this makes sense, like with what is going on here in the moment. And that E is doing things in an easy manner. So not like being that person that's, oh, we have to talk about our relationship. Cause like people just check out when they're like, come up against such a
Yeah.
hard sell. I've always talked about that with my clients in relation to a buy here, pay now lot for a vehicle and a Lexus dealership, which I've never been to. I've had a client who has been to a Lexus dealership. And a lot of the times people prefer that experience of the Lexus dealership because it's let me know if you have questions. If you want this in a different color, let me know. Would you care to have a latte or coffee as you roam our store? Versus the buy here, pay here lot where it's don't worry about that light. I'll knock off $500. There's going to be one experience over the other. And so I truly, I teach this skill a lot for parents of littles and for interactions with their spouse or their partner.
Yeah. What a great skill.
Yeah, love it.
And what an easy thing to remember, but I think also an easier one to implement than maybe some other like typical DBT skills.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of trying to make them your own, but yes,
Yeah.
DBT skills can come across rather challenging.
What's another one of your top used DBT skill?
Ooh, especially with my mamas, I go with the TIP skill. So it's another acronym. It's a distress tolerance skill.
Ooh.
So it's temperature, intense exercise, paced breathing, and progressive muscle relaxation.
Okay.
So I tend to go with the T a lot. It's safe usually across the board, like unless you have a history of severe anorexia or heart conditions. I promise you'll know if that's you. But the best way to use ice is to take it and combo it with that paced breathing, right? We think about that belly breath and how our internal organs squish this vagus nerve up there in our tummies and send that signal to the amygdala, which is that safety piece in our brain. And that amygdala sends that signal down with the breathing and says, hey, it's okay. We can calm down. Takes about 14 weeks of training to get your brain there, but it is doable if we practice every day. But comboing that with that temperature shift, like holding the ice, finding a place that it feels good. Like I don't like my hands. I just get more irritated if I feel my hands are cold. I put them underneath my eyes. I call it where my mommy bags go and hold it there as I deep breathe. Some people like their chest or the small of their back or their thighs, whatever works. In the winter, we're so lucky in Minnesota, we can just step outside in a pair of sandals and a t-shirt and
Yeah.
let it happen. But that intense temperature shift coupled with that deep breathing is almost like an emotional vacuum. It really just sucks out all of that energy. So I really encourage people to do that for a good 10 or 15 minutes and then go do something super distracting afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. I have an ice roller just
Ooh,
everywhere, every morning. I'm just like,
yeah,
let me start my day, calm it down, like some deep breaths, get it. I roll it like really a little more firm on my chest and just
yeah,
really work it into there. But yeah, I think the science that's coming out with like cold plunges and
yeah,
thing in the severe and like saunas and just the temperature shifts and how regulating it can be is really
yeah,
fascinating. And I think that Eastern medicine knows a lot that's coming in now,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah, I think that's spot on because
Yeah.
I know the science behind the ice specifically is that it creates the diver's response in us, especially when it's coupled with that slow paced breathing. And that diver's response is just it takes away all of that energy from where it doesn't need to be. It just serves our internal organs to keep our heart beating, our lungs breathing. And so that's why that can be so effective for us.
Yeah. I had a question along the lines of that and I lost it. It'll come back.
Yeah, that's okay.
I have another question though. How do you help couples reconnect and find the joy in each other, whether it's after parenting or whether something traumatic happens or
Yeah. Yeah. Oh goodness. Like I I will say that a lot of the times, especially after a trauma or having a baby, which I are just these huge life altering pieces that can happen. It's again making that intentional choice to choose to show up, right?
Mhm.
Even in the best of partnerships, if you're not showing up, you're not going to get the result that you want, right? And I step back and educate a lot of my couples, especially like, after baby, right? Like I hear a lot of that piece of there's no time for each other. There's no physical intimacy, no emotional intimacy. So I teach a lot about Sternberg's theory of love
Okay.
and what makes a complete love. So it's intimacy, which is not the physical piece. The intimacy is actually friendship love, like that emotional connection that we have with one another. And that second piece, that triangle is commitment, like making that choice to stay, show up, try again and again. Because I know like our culture has this myth that marriage should be easy or the end game, but really it just begins, or long term partnerships too. And then passion is more of that physical expression of love. And we need all three, right? And so oftentimes after a baby is born or there's a trauma that happens, commitment stays strong. And a lot of my couples will say, we just feel like roommates. It feels like there's nothing there. We're not having sex. We're not connecting. And even if we are in the mood, we're just exhausted. We don't, and I do a lot of education around what do we do to bring these pieces in, because especially that passion piece, like, it's not going to be like that puppy love, like when we first started the relationship. That comes and goes throughout the relationship, but really educating my clients on how to manage this. So, like, letting them know biologically, men express their love for their partner through the physical intimacy. Women, as much as they might love to get to that space, sex starts in the brain. So, really talking about what are some ways that we can express these pieces non sexually? How can we connect with one another? Is it just sitting down and doing a puzzle together? Is it talking about a book? Is it lying silently and holding hands? Right. And then with sex, because it's so important for so many relationships, I'm a big fan of what the Gottmans have to say about it. Sex after baby is scheduling it. So it brings me to a DBT skill, adaptive denial. So living as if something were true. So treating sex like an appointment. Obviously, when you're ready, because postpartum sex is so different for everybody, but just putting it in the calendar, putting date night on the calendar, treating it like an appointment you can't miss so that you show up and make the choice, whether you're tired or not. Obviously, space, like if you're sick and you physically can't, that's okay too. But making that choice to act as if it's something that you can't miss, which is
Yeah.
so hard to do sometimes because we tend to know our partners so well, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no novelty to them. And so it's really getting to engage in that choice to treat them as a novel person, something
Mm.
that's exciting.
Yeah. Where is the sexiness in scheduling?
Ooh, yep. That's a big question. It's not super sexy, right?
Yeah.
The Gottmans say foreplay doesn't necessarily need to be sexual. It's how we interact throughout the day.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make it sexy. So a big fan of like the walking by, like spank on the butt or calling a pet name, like that 6-second kiss that we need daily that doesn't necessarily take place right before sex. Maybe it takes place early in the morning. So you're thinking about it all day. Those are those things that are going to help make scheduling sex sexy.
Yeah. 6-second kiss.
Yeah.
Talk more about it.
I think it's just really about that connection
Yeah.
and being with each other. You can even add in like that other theorist, Virginia Satir, who had the hug theory, right?
Yep.
4 hugs a day to survive, 8 to be okay, and 12 to thrive. Like really adding those pieces in too.
Mhm.
They're all coming from that same piece of connection. And I know we're talking about the sex piece and all of this, that intentional hugging. It can be
Yeah.
used with kids too. So it's really just like this connection point from what we know about the brain. The brain is hardwired to connect with other people and it's
Mhm.
hardwired to heal. Those are like my big truths about the brain when I work with anything postpartum, couples, trauma, you name it.
Mhm. Yeah. I think I could use 100 hugs a day. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm
I
constantly hugging my
like,
kids, giving them kisses. And now
same.
my 8-year-old is, you can hug me, but no kisses.
No,
I'm like, okay.
but
You know, so
I'll take one of them.
yep. It's all about balance,
Yeah.
respecting his needs, which is hard.
Yeah. I'm just looking at your website and you do some intensives, it looks like.
Yeah.
What I'm so curious. Tell me about your experience and what that is. First, what an intensive is, but what has your experience been like with those?
Yeah. So intensives, I offer them in 3-hour blocks. It's just for people who are thinking, I don't have time for weekly therapy for a long extended period of time. If I have like trauma to clear or I like really want to work intensely on these couple of issues. Or it can just be for people that are like, I'm ready to heal, like I'm in a space and I want to just work through it all. I'm just excited to do it. So it can be for anyone. You don't have to have a history of trauma. It can just be, I've had people, like couples specifically, will schedule those just so that they can get a head start on the healing process or a head start on reconnecting or whatever their goals are. But it everything is in the words there. Intensive. It is intense. It's 3 hours of doing therapy. I've had people schedule 6 hours. There's obviously breaks involved, but it can be a really nice way to get ahead of where you already want to be. Because when people decide they're ready for change, they wanted that change yesterday. They don't want
Yeah.
to wait around for it. And so it can be a really lovely option if you're in that headspace to really commit.
Yeah. During those maybe more trauma focused intensive, are you using EMDR or other very specific trauma modalities?
Yeah, I am certified in EMDR, and I would say that's probably my main jam. I'm also trained in accelerated resolution therapy or ART. So I use that often with like single incident traumas or just times when like maybe we need to turn down the physical sensation of the emotion just to get to the other work. I am trained in some other trauma modalities like prolonged exposure therapy. People tend to not really love that because they record their trauma story and then they have to listen to it every day outside of session and fill the worksheet. So, not surprising. I don't do a lot of that, but that was required back in my DBT days. Yep, that was a requirement. It's great, very research back, just especially with my moms and my dads that I see, they don't have the time to sit and listen to their story for half hour a day and fill out a worksheet. So
Yeah.
it's just not really doable. But I have had a couple of people make that choice and that's up to them. But yeah, I mostly use a lot of EMDR and DBT skills in those intensives and also do them outside of intensives because that's people do choose once or twice a week to come in and do the hour session with those pieces and work through some of that. And just as a general piece, like such a misnomer that EMDR is only for trauma. You don't need to have trauma to use it. You could just feel like you are struggling to fully show up somewhere, maybe in your relationship. That's really great because it's the idea of logically, I believe that I'm capable and I know all the facts are there. And emotionally, I just can't believe this from my heart of hearts. So
Right.
EMDR really does a nice job of comboing that.
Right. How long have you been offering the intensives?
Just probably about the last, oh gosh, not quite a year yet. It'll be a year this upcoming August. I've been offering them.
Okay. Do you do them primarily in person or virtual, or does both? Do they pick?
Yeah, I've done them in person. No one's really wanted to do a
Or virtual?
3 hour more
Yeah.
intensive, and I do offer it. So it is a choice. I think it's so personal and up to everybody. Some people just like having the comfort of being out of their home and being somewhere else. Some people really want to have the comfort of their favorite chair in their favorite room
Yeah.
to work through trauma. And either way is okay.
Yeah. What are like your top two recommendations, suggestions, tips, takeaways for people listening?
Ooh. I would say honor yourself and your experience would be the big one. And I truly, just because it might not look like trauma on paper, if it is trauma and you feel it's like trauma, it's okay to call it that. It doesn't matter if there can be a clinical diagnosis attached to it or not. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, and really making that choice to use skills because it is a choice and being really kind to yourself through that process. I like to encourage the 80-20 rule. Like if you've done skills 80% of the day, you have knocked it out of the park. Like that's an incredible day. Like we're humans. We're not robots. We're not meant to be perfect in everything. We're going to screw up and it's all about repair.
One final question. If you weren't a therapist and could do anything in the world, anything with your life, and nobody knew what it was, what would you do?
Well, hands down, I would be the person playing the grand piano at either Menards or the airport.
Oh my God, stop.
100%. That's my
Menards?
retirement job. My husband
Menards
and I
has a
will,
piano?
huh? Yeah, at least the one in our neck of the woods here in the southwest suburbs, they've got a grand piano. And whenever we're there, I'm like, this is my retirement job. This is what's going on.
You're just gonna go play the piano.
Yep. Yep.
I love it. I love it. Where can people find you? Where can they learn more about you?
So I have my website, which is happynesttherapymn.com. And then I am also on Instagram. So that's at happynesttherapymn. Those are probably the two best places where people can find me and
Yeah.
learn more about what I do and what's coming up. I know I have a postpartum class for couples that's going to
Oh,
be dropping here by the end of summer. So
okay.
lots of the
Okay.
topics discussed today absolutely expanded on so that couples can not feel like they're so distant or disconnected. Learn about what it means to like need help for symptoms in the perinatal period, how to transition to parenthood, how to repair, just all these pieces that I feel are so needed and would really be helpful in supporting people in their parenthood.
Yeah. Will that be an ongoing class? Maybe not every week, but will happen consistently so people, when this episode drops, people can look for it like later this year.
Yep. Yeah. The plan is like holding it probably about once a month so that people can sign up and get in on all these really big skills that I feel
Yeah.
are just so essential to getting through the hard parts. Because it's really that 0 to 6 phase with kids that's the hardest when they need us the most. And where that hierarchy just is so rearranged with having to prioritize their needs over your needs or your spouse's needs and just really how to tolerate it and get through it because it is hard work and it's work that I know that I would truly never change for the world.
Yeah. Great. I will put details for where people can find you in the show notes. The episode will air a little bit later this year, but this has been such a great conversation. I'm so thankful you were able to join today.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
appreciate you having
Yeah.
me.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to learn more or follow either of us on social media, you can find more information in the show notes. Thanks for your support and listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.